Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Truth or Demons podcast. I'm your host, Stevie, and today's episode is extra special. Remember how I mentioned having some fun interviews to share with you all soon? Well, today I have one for you. I recently met Eric Vitale, a paranormal investigator and former member of the New England Society for Psychic Research. He's also known for being on the Travel Channel show, Ghost Loop. We met because Eric found my show and reached out to me. We did some chatting and decided to schedule an interview. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this. Eric tells us what it's like to be a paranormal investigator and what it was like working for the organization founded by Ed and Lorraine Warren over 50 years ago. NESPR, or the New England Society for Psychic Research, was founded by Ed and Lorraine in 1952. So sit back and get ready for this closer look into the world of paranormal investigation. Here we go. So I thought I'd start off with some questions I think the listeners would really enjoy, some insight on, and then I'll go into some questions about your time with the New England Society for Psychic Research, aka the NESPR or NESPR.
Sure.
So my first question for you is if you would actually it's not a question, would you introduce yourself and tell the listeners what it is you do?
My name is Eric Vitale. I currently live in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I'm a paranormal investigator, and I specialize in ITC research, which basically means intertransmental communication. I communicate with the other side using devices like spirit boxes and portal devices and things of that nature.
Okay. What got you started in this?
Well, I grew up in New Jersey, and my parents used to always bring me to visit my aunt and uncle and my 5 cousins, and they lived in a big, beautiful colonial house, and it was haunted. And I was a very questionable young child, and I remember seeing an art piece on the wall that my cousin Danny did, and he was closer to my age, and it was a family tree, and I remember pointing at it, and I was like, "Who's Murmur?" And they're like, "Oh, that's just Danny's imaginary friend." And as time would go on, I would hear stories about ghosts in the house from my cousins. And one story that always stuck out to me was 2 of my cousins were home. No one else was in the house. And they heard someone in the bathroom, like the water was running. So they both walked up to the bathroom door, and they're like, "Who's in there?" They thought somebody wandered in off the street, like a homeless person, and they're like using the bathroom. So they're like, "We're coming in." And they opened the door, and then the water shut off and steam rolled out. And, nobody was there. And that was always a story that frightened me as a child, and I never wanted to use that bathroom. I always made sure I used the other bathroom at the end of the hallway. And there was other things that got me into it. I was raised Catholic, and so things like spiritual cleansings and blessings and, learning about, the darker side of things was something that was brought to my attention at a young age. And as I got a little older, I just kind of dove into it. I heard of Ed and Lorraine Warren when I was younger, because I remember seeing them on TV shows like Sally, Jesse, Raphael. And I was always a very big horror movie fan. And I remember watching a special on the Amityville Horror, and Ed and Lorraine were on there talking about it. And I just remember saying, like, wait a minute. These people are like real Ghostbusters. Like, people actually do this stuff, and this stuff is actually real. And it scared me, and at the same time, it excited me. So I just, as I got older, I just started going out and finding haunted locations and hanging out in cemeteries when I was a teenager, and abandoned hospitals, and going through weird New Jersey and looking up haunted spots to go hang out at. And one thing leads to another. You buy equipment, you start using the equipment, you meet certain people, and it just snowballs from there. And before you know it, you've been doing it for over 10 years. And it's like, where'd the time go?
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. What was your first official investigation as an official paranormal investigator?
That's an interesting question, because I started researching first, like going over cases on the internet and reading about them. But like the first actual investigation, it definitely wasn't a residential. I'd probably have to say going to Letchworth Village in Seals, New York. There's this massive area in Seals, New York, where there's all abandoned mental hospitals. And people had heard about this because, I mean, they filmed an episode of Ghost Adventures there. But I had gone there, I think it was like the summer of 2016, maybe. And that might have been the first time. I mean, I was always going to cemeteries and playing with my equipment. I shouldn't use the term playing, but, trying to make contact.
Yes. Utilizing the tools.
Yes, exactly. But, I didn't really have a name for myself yet. This was like before I got on TV and things like that. So, yeah, I'd say it was Letchworth Village. And I went back there numerous times and, a lot of evidence and a lot of experiences. I was scratched in there. That was the first time I felt like I was in the presence of something demonic, which the best way I could describe the way I felt was I felt like I was in a Shark Tank when I was in there.
Oh, wow.
I felt like danger. I've seen black mists dash across the floor in there, disembodied voices I've heard in there. I've seen mists on the floor. Yeah, that's a pretty haunted location, and there's a lot of bad, dark energy connected to that location. I don't know if you've ever looked it up, but there's tons of videos on YouTube about it. They tested for polio in there. They would feed everyone, thousands of unfortunate kids with the same spoon. There was rapes in there. People were murdered in there. So, the demonic will cling to an area like that.
Yeah. Because
of the horrible things that have happened. And, I remember, going there and it clings to you for a few days. It's like you just feel dirty after you leave there.
Yeah.
I don't recommend going because, I mean, it is illegal. You're trespassing when you go there. It's all boarded up. But, we wanted to get in there and investigate and try and get some evidence. And, we did numerous times back in the day.
Yeah. That's incredible. Okay, so you mentioned you use a lot of the ghost hunting tools. What was the first tool you ever purchased?
Can't even remember. Probably like a K2 meter.
Okay. That's the first one I knew about. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it measures EMF, which the theory is spirits are made up of electromagnetic energy. So I lost count how many of those I have now. But I think my first purchase was like that and like maybe a spirit box, the PSP-7.
Okay.
And it's funny because I remember being scared to use the PSP-7 at first. Like I remember standing in Letchworth Village like, well, okay, I'm going to open up a line of communication. What do I do if like they say something? And it's just so funny thinking back. Like, what do I do if a demon actually communicates? And now it's like, I've been doing it for like so long. It's like, even though 2016 may not seem that long ago, there's been hundreds of investigations.
It does.
Yeah, hundreds of investigations since then, both residential and places like that, abandoned locations where there's a haunting.
Like when you're using your tools, which tools do you use and for what? Like, are there specific times that you use specific tools or just any tool anytime you're investigating?
It depends on, like, the claims of the haunting. Like, for instance, I'll use a spirit box at any time. I love using spirit boxes. In fact, my go-to is a ghost box, which is called, you remember Radio Shack?
Yeah.
So they made a radio back years ago called, it was the 12587. It was a small radio, so that was hacked. Nowadays, if you try to find one of those on eBay, they're like a couple grand.
Oh, wow.
Investigators used those years ago before the PSP-7 was even made. I have one. I love it. And that's what I use to try and get voices. And what I do is I connect it to a device called the Portal, which is basically a guitar amp with pedals. There's a reverb pedal on it and a noise gate. And I also... I have quite a few spirit boxes, but that's like my main setup. And I have a sound booster that I connect to it as well. It's a little fancy setup. But that's what I like to do. I like to try and capture voices.
Okay.
But if there's, a claim of like a shadow person walking down a hallway, I'll set up a laser grid. It's all like, what are the claims? What's going on here? And then whatever I have, I'll use those tools to try and validate the claims of the haunting.
Okay, that's awesome. And so when you're trying to get the voices, these machines, I've seen them a lot on TV. I'm unfortunately terrible at remembering what each one is called, but I noticed that a lot of them use the white noise, correct?
Yes.
So how do you feel about, like, when you're investigating and you're trying to concentrate and be present in the area, how does that white noise affect you personally while you're trying to listen for stuff?
There's been nights where I'm in a house investigating like most of the night, and then I get home and it's like all I hear is that
yeah.
I'm trying to fall asleep. You just get used to it. But what's cool with using something like the portal and then the noise booster, you could kind of alleviate that white noise. I like to have a little bit of it coming through. Just because I'm so used to it, but you can kind of like tone it down a little bit. That's why I enjoy using the portal. And you could kind of like sweep that white noise under the rug,
That's nice, yeah. What is the most prominent experience you can remember having with a spirit or an entity you've interacted with?
Shit. All right. This will be like a 2 or a 3-part answer.
Okay.
There's been quite a few. So I had a case somewhere here in Connecticut. I forget what town we were in. I think we're in Winstead. It was a couple of years ago. And it was myself and maybe a half dozen investigators. And I was in the basement with another investigator. I'm going to choose my words wisely. Maybe certain people won't want to be mentioned, but I was in the basement with another investigator, and I was doing a spirit box session, and I had some other devices set up. I had a REM pod in the corner of the room, and in the other corner of the room, I had an EM pump. Are you familiar with that device?
I am not. No.
Okay, so again, the theory is that spirits are made up of electromagnetic energy. So what an EM pump will do is you turn it on and it's shooting EMF into the atmosphere, and it's giving the spirits extra energy to create a manifestation. Whatever that manifestation might be, they could start to show themselves. They could, talk to you, a disembodied voice. They could touch you. So this is all going on. And out of nowhere, I was kicked with brute force in my foot. And the whole room went cold. And I turned the spirit box off. And I was like, okay, you've got my attention. Who did that? Someone kicked me very hard in my foot. We had a psychic medium with us. And I went upstairs and I told her about what happened in the basement. And she told me that there was a German man in the house, a spirit, and he was upset with all of us in the house because he thought we were trying to find the money that he hid in the house.
Oh my.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've been scratched numerous times, but who hasn't when you've been doing it?
Did you look into that money or any?
Absolutely not. I'm not that foolish.
I don't blame you.
I don't need it. I don't need the money that bad. I am not getting an attachment because I stole some dude's money
right
years ago.
Did you look into if that might be actually true?
Not that night. We were concentrating a lot on communicating with other spirits in the backyard, I remember.
Okay.
Sometimes you can only put so much time into a residential space. But yeah, I remember being kicked pretty hard, and I was like, wow, I've never been felt anything like that before.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm on an investigation and the spirits are trying to get my attention and touch me, it feels like spider webs. It feels like you're walking through spider webs, which I've experienced numerous times.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it literally feels like you're walking through spider webs and you're just trying to get it off you and there's nothing on you. I mean, I've had some darker experiences that I've tried to just forget about, but there was a case in New Jersey Borg's Woods in New Jersey. When I was younger, I used to hear stories about these woods, that they were haunted, and that there would be like satanic cults would go in there and do rituals. And I remember when I was in high school, my art teacher told me that she was friends with a cop, and they found a human head in there. And I was just like, oh my God. So all these years later, all of a sudden, Borg's Woods popped up again on my radar, and it's like, all right, fuck it, let's go investigate. So we went, and the shit hit the fan like fast. I was there doing a spirit box session with other investigators, and I remember a voice coming out of the spirit box, and it said, "Gonna make them sick." And no sooner after that happened, the two females that were with us, I turn around, and they're just standing there with their backs towards me, staring into the darkness like in a trance. And they both keeled over and started vomiting. So we're like, all right, we're done.
Yeah.
We ran out, blessed them with holy water. And I went back alone because I was pissed, because at the time, one of the females was my girlfriend. So I went back and I did a session on my own, and I started yelling at whatever was there, which I don't recommend because that is provocation.
Mm-hmm.
And I started asking all these questions like, is there something demonic here? You have no right to harm women. What's in these woods? And a voice came out of my spirit box, said Satan.
Oh.
And I felt like I was in danger. So I packed my shit. I left. A couple days later, I woke up in the middle of the day because at that time I was working third shift. So I would sleep most of the day. And my days off, I would just go and investigate. All my free time was going towards the paranormal. So I woke up, and I'm like, shit, the side of my neck burns. I wonder what that's about. So I went in the bathroom, and I looked in the mirror, and I had claw marks straight down the side of my neck.
Wow.
So, again, I don't like to say the D word too often, because everyone in the paranormal field right now is calling things demonic.
Yes.
And again, I apologize. I curse like a sailor.
Oh, no, you're fine. Curse all you like.
All these fucking YouTubers with their blowjob faces for clickbait. All right? I'm sorry, but it's the truth. There's a demon here. There's a demon there. It's the truth. It's the truth. That's what they're doing for their likes and their views and their followers. Get the fuck out of here. Seriously, get the fuck out of here.
I follow a skeptical ghost hunter, and he was in a location. I was watching him, and one of the very popular, massive amounts of followers type of YouTubers came to the same location and had him kicked out. Told the hotel he was harassing them, so he was removed because this bigger YouTuber said so.
I just can't. I mean, I just can't. Like, they're all... I'm sure people are going to listen to this and say, Eric's a fucking asshole. I can care less.
No, what's true is true.
So, that might be one of the only times I think I was dealing with something demonic, because it kind of fucked with me for a little bit. And there was a night a couple months later where I went back, because like I said, we kept going back and investigating because this was like a hot case for us. So I had come back, and it was like around 3 a.m, which, as you know, is the devil's hour, and it's called the devil's hour because that's when Jesus Christ was crucified on the cross, was 3 p.m. So the opposite of that is he was crucified at 3 p.m. So the opposite is 3 a.m. That's a mocking of the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So if there's going to be something demonic going on, it's usually around that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was laying in bed, and all of a sudden, my entire bed shook.
Oh.
And I heard and felt a voice come from inside of me, and it said blood. And that's the best way I could describe it. It felt like it came from inside me. So all I could say is that I think that maybe, possibly, a demonic entity telepathically projected that to me.
Yeah.
And I remember jumping out of bed and, saying the St. Michael prayer and throwing holy water everywhere.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I haven't been back there since, because like I said, I live in Connecticut now. There's no reason for me to go back there in Jersey and make the trek. It's like, I'm good. I've investigated there numerous times.
So, okay, so since that happened to you, when there are a lot of people that, since I've started this, a lot of people that asked me questions about ghost hunting. I think sometimes I get mistaken to be a ghost hunter since I've done so much research and shared all of it. I get
Hmm.
asked questions like, how do I protect myself when I'm ghost hunting? What do I do if something attaches to me? So when you go through these kind of experiences and you come home and you're having residual effects, how do you take care of that?
I pray.
Okay.
I pray, and I bless myself with holy water and holy oils. You could burn Palo Santo, which is, Holywood.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just about your faith and however you choose to protect yourself, whatever works for you. I'm not here to preach.
Yeah.
I'm not here to sell anything. Whatever works for you, that's giving you positivity in your life, do it.
That's great. Yeah, I'm not a religious person, but I always believe in doing what makes you feel best. And if like it's God or any form of religion or any form of spirituality, I believe that if it makes you feel right, that's what you should do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, that's a good answer because I get asked that a lot, and I don't want to give anybody the wrong answer because I only have my own experiences. So it's nice to have someone else corroborate their methods too.
Yep.
Do you have any
Whatever
more?
works for you.
Yes,
Say that again?
exactly. Do you have any more of the major memories that stick out to you?
I mean, besides being, like I said, I've been scratched a handful of times, and kicked. Let's see. About a year ago, I was investigating Penhurst Asylum.
Okay.
Have you heard of it?
Yes.
Okay, so I was there, and we were, I think we were in the Mayflower building. I forget what building we were in, but we were in a basement, and we were doing a spirit box session. Most of these stories revolve around doing a spirit box session because we're trying to open up a line of communication. We're trying to get evidence. And we were down there, and there were stories of, if I remember correctly, there was like something with kids down there biting people.
Oh.
And one of the investigators all of a sudden was like, "Oh my God, my arm!" And sure enough, a bite mark appeared on this guy's arm, and it matched up to one of the children that used to live there because there was like teeth missing, and it was like, oh my God, like that's so substantial, like that's fucking amazing.
That's incredible.
What else? There's been so much stuff, like just so many weird experiences.
Oh, I got one for you then. With your best experiences, what is your best evidence?
So a couple years ago, we did an overnight investigation of Ed and Lorraine Warren's occult museum, and I was in there alone by myself, and I was in the passageway that's Ed used to call the haunted passageway. It basically connects the museum to Ed and Lorraine Warren's house. And I was walking through, and I was asking questions, and I was using my ghost box, the Radio Shack 12587. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's old, but I fucking love that thing. So I'm asking questions, and I said, who am I communicating with? Who's here? And clear as day, as I was approaching Annabelle's case, a voice shot out of the spirit box that said, "Annabelle."
No way.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
And I remember, like, wow, that was pretty interesting. Now, was that the spirit that apparently is attached to Annabelle? I don't know. I can't tell you that because I'm not an expert. You know why? Because nobody's a fucking expert in this field.
Yes.
There's tons of items in that museum. There's supposedly things connected to most of those items. So I don't know who said that or what said that, but I was approaching Annabelle's case, and a voice came through that said Annabelle. Now, for all the naysayers and the people that don't believe in this equipment, explain that. Oh, it was on the radio.
Yeah.
Who the fuck said Annabelle 3:00 in the morning while I was standing in front of the case?
Yeah.
That Annabelle is it.
Yeah, that's unless you're pre-programming your equipment, which would be terribly unethical. Yeah, that would not happen just like that would be a serious indicator for me that something was there.
Mm-hmm.
My mom and I investigated the Whaley House in San Diego, California in 2011, and we were given little devices that said words. I can't remember what it was called then, but it was probably
Ovulus.
It was possibly that, and it would say words randomly, and it said my mother's name.
See, how do you explain that?
Yeah, really, because my mom is really a sensitive person. She has no knowledge of how to control it. It just happens to her, and everywhere we go, stuff like that happens.
You see, I used to be a little skeptical of investigators using apps, using their phones, until very recently. A few months ago, I was actually filming a new documentary film at the Shanley Hotel. It's called Within Haunted Walls, and it's coming out in December. Most of the evidence that we gathered was because we were using apps, because the spirits there are so used to investigators coming in and using apps. So we were getting some pretty wild evidence, and I was just like, shit, I'm pretty blown away.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to think twice now about apps.
Yeah, it seems like to be a comfortable thing for them if it's so oftenly used.
And also, I mean, not to name drop, but it was sometime last year, I did an investigation with John Zaffis and some other investigators, and John Zaffis, the OG, was using an app, and we were getting incredible evidence. We were at the Brinkerhoff House in New York. We truly believe Ed and Lorraine were coming through that night. Now, if you know who John Zaffis is.
Yeah.
That's Ed and Lorraine's nephew.
Yeah.
Ed and Lorraine were coming through, talking to John and myself and another ex-member of NESPR. It was incredible. It was incredibly validating. So I am definitely thinking differently about apps now.
That's really cool. I have tried the apps over the years, and I have had my moments where I was really surprised, and I've had my moments where I was really skeptical.
Yes.
All right, so since we dropped some names, let's continue on with how exactly you know Tony Spira.
Well, I grew up in New Jersey, and at first, I just found out who he was because of doing research on the Warrens, and it's like, okay, he's the son-in-law. So at first we were just friends on Facebook, and then I started coming to Connecticut for the Evening with Annabelle events, which they don't have those anymore because the place that they used to be held at is gone. They used to hold them at this restaurant called Roberto's. But yeah, that's how we met, and we kind of stood in contact for a bit. And this was around 2016, 2017. I started coming out to the museum to visit. And the tail end of 2019, I was traveling America in 2019. I was filming a TV show for the Travel Channel called Ghost Loop, and I was basically on the road clear through all of September, all of October. I didn't get home till November 1st, I remember, and I remember reaching out to Tony, like right at the end of filming. I think I was in Utah, and I said, I'm going to be home in about a week or so, and I'm going to be moving in with my girlfriend in Connecticut, who is now my lovely wife. And I'd love to work with you guys. So he got back to me and said, sure, Eric, we'd love to have you. So, that was that. I joined NESPR and kind of dove right in to, going out and doing whatever cases came to our attention. And I worked with them for about 2.5 years.
So you worked with him for that long. What was he like from beginning to end? And then we'll talk about why you no longer work there.
Let me choose my words incredibly wisely here. Tony came across as a nice guy. But as the years would go on, again, couple of years, 3 years tops, I knew him. I just started to see the cracks, I guess you could say, in his personality. And again, I should watch what I say, but he came across as a nice guy. He definitely did. But towards the end, I just felt like he had ulterior motives with the NESPR name, and I guess that's really all I could say about that.
That's fair. So as an investigator, did you investigate with him, or was it just you and the other team members?
If a case would come in, he probably came out, I could probably count on one hand, maybe half a dozen times he came out with us. I remember he was in the Conjuring house with us, I think once. He came on a couple residentials. I remember him being in church with us because we were assisting on an exorcism. I assisted on a couple exorcisms when I was part of NESPR. Not too often. He would basically, there was a protocol. I mean, we would get a case, and we were supposed to tell Tony, because, God forbid we did anything without him knowing, we'd get a slap on the wrist. So, we'd get a case, or he would get a case, because people would reach out to him, and he would just, round up whoever would be interested in going, and we'd go.
Was he a believer of everything, or was he more of a let's just do it to do it kind of?
You see, you're really sticking me between a rock and a hard place right now.
Well, don't say anything you're not comfortable saying. I totally understand.
I'll choose to not answer that question.
You got it. Alrighty then, my next question is, what was it that led you to leave NESPR?
A conflict of interest, we'll put it that way.
Fair enough.
A conflict of interest.
That is fair enough. I completely understand. Okay, so let's see. How do you feel about how little evidence the Warrens and Tony have shared over the years when they claim to have so much?
That rock's getting bigger and bigger.
Again, you can say, next question, please.
Listen, I was pretty in it. I was close to it for like a good 3 years. I saw all those things in the museum. All those items are there. There was plenty of other items that I heard existed that I did not see.
Okay.
But, I mean, Tony's doing a pretty good job at carting everything around and making money off it, right?
Yeah.
So he's showing everything off, right?
Yeah. So,
People
okay, with that, my question, to further my question, actually, I have seen him get on YouTube, and he'll sit down with someone like, I think it was John Kennyhertz or maybe Paul Bartz. I can't remember which one of them it was, but it was whoever went to Enfield with Ed, and I have that recording when Ed went to Enfield, and then I thought Tony was going to share it because he kept mentioning it. We have this recording, we have all these images, and they got out this book, and he's flipping through the book, and then he has this habit, I've noticed, of changing the direction of the video to be more storytelling versus evidence sharing. So does he have the evidence? Like, he's got it right there with...
What evidence are you asking about?
Recording specifically and photos.
So I've heard recordings. He's played them at events.
Okay.
They are on YouTube. I don't know what specific recording you're asking about, because they do. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the Conjuring movies. They've played recordings at the end of the Conjuring 2 for the Enfield case.
Yes. I wondered if those were accurate, like legitimate.
I mean, listen, I wasn't there. I wasn't even born yet. Do I think that was a legit case? Yes. Do I think some of that might have been a little embellished? Maybe. I mean, look at the pictures. The girls look like they're jumping in the air.
Yeah.
And I mean, the evidence is there. Maurice Gross and what was the other gentleman's name? Guy
Lyon Playfair.
Say that again?
Guy Lyon Playfair.
Yes, Guy Playfair, yes. These guys were there for months.
Mm-hmm.
From what I have heard, this is just my opinion, because this is what I've heard from people, Ed and Lorraine went there unannounced once or twice, spent a couple days there, and I do know that Ed went without Lorraine once.
Yeah, that was what I found in the book.
And there are pictures of Ed and Lorraine in the house.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've ever seen them, but I could send them to you when we're done with this interview, because they're actually they're on Facebook. They're on Judy Sparrow's page, and I shared them to my Facebook group, Exploring the Supernatural, with Eric Vitale. They're on there.
Okay.
There's pictures of them in the house, and Lorraine in the house together.
In the 70s.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Because, I couldn't find that evidence. I couldn't find any evidence of Lorraine being there. I found plenty with Ed.
There are pictures with them in the family. There are pictures of them there in the house with the family, 100%.
Okay, great.
Now, a story pertaining to the Enfield case, because I remember this. I remember Judy telling me a story, and Lorraine's daughter, just so everybody knows who we're talking about here.
Yeah, that Judy.
So I remember Judy telling me a story that she actually went there one time with her folks, and she was in the house, and her pocketbook flew across the room, like it just slid clear across the room on its own.
Wow.
And I don't remember if there's another story. I can't remember if it was Tony or Judy, but they saw Judy's doppelganger when they were there.
Oh, wow.
Like somewhere in England. Again, I wasn't there.
That's pretty trippy.
These are stories that I heard.
Yeah. And I always take the heard stories with a grain of salt, because you weren't there.
Exactly.
Alrighty. Let's see. Oh, okay. So, were you privy to any of the evidence for the famous cases, as in the ones like the first Conjuring movie? Clearly, you saw some from Enfield. And what about? We're gonna get there for in depth, but did you get to see or be a part of? Or I guess you weren't a part of it because it was a long time ago. But did you get to see anything from the Arnie Cheyenne Johnson case?
Yeah, numerous times. So there's a again, I have to choose my words wisely, because these are famous cases, and these are people that I met,
and some of them are still around. Yeah.
So there is a toy dinosaur in the Occult Museum. It's a green toy dinosaur.
I wondered
that
about
is
that.
From that particular case.
Yes.
Now, the story goes, when they were in there investigating, they were there for God knows how long. One of the days they were in there, that inanimate object just walked across the floor by itself, and a voice emanated from it, and it said, "You're all going to die." Now, this is supposedly an extremely haunted item, along with all these other haunted items like Annabelle and the Satanic Idol, and that Ed Warren has said numerous times, do not give any recognition, don't touch any of these items. Well, those items have been touched more times than I can count.
That says a lot. That says a lot.
Just to, be brought to events and make money.
Mm-hmm.
So being part of NESPR for, the few years I was, long enough, I saw what I needed to see. I thought I was joining a team, but it's really just a business.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I shouldn't even.
No, that's a good word for it. It's just a business.
But it is what it is. It is what it is.
For sure. Okay. This next question. Also, feel free to say next question, please. Tell me how you feel about and what you have experienced with Annabelle.
I have personally never been afraid around that thing. I look at it more as like a I don't even know how to word it. It's like I never felt danger or scared. I mean, I've been in the museum alone.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in a van with Annabelle alone. I've never felt scared. I don't question like the reality of that case, but I question the fact that it's like the most, besides the Amityville Horror, it's like the most known Etta Lorraine Warren case.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I don't know why the family never came forward and spoke about it. Much like the Hodgson, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce their name. The family
it's okay.
From the Enfield.
I do the same thing.
Yeah, the Enfield poltergeist. I don't know why the family, the two nurses from Hartford, Connecticut, I don't know why they never came forward and spoke about it. I also kind of question the story about the man that taunted it and tapped on the case, and then he apparently got a motorcycle accident. I've researched that. I can't find any proof that happened.
Same.
So yeah, I don't know. I kind of look at Annabelle like a mascot in a way.
I can see that for sure.
So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about Annabelle. I never felt scared around it. Now, would I touch it? No, because I'm smarter than that.
Yeah.
But I've never experienced any type of fear. The only thing I experienced was that pretty cool voice that came out of my spirit box. But as far as it being like the most haunted, the most evil item in the museum, like I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so how do you feel about, in the book, when they first mention Annabelle and her story and where they got her and everything, they use the names Deirdre and Lara. And then in a lot of Tony's videos and in other YouTubers' videos, I'm assuming because they got their information from Tony, he says Donna instead of Deirdre.
That's just Tony having a bad memory at this point. Yeah, that's all that is.
Okay.
I mean, they did a YouTube, they went live on Facebook a couple weeks ago, and he couldn't even remember the names of people he filmed a TV show with. So,
oh, no.
Yeah, I mean, he was on that 28 Days Haunted show, and he couldn't even remember the names of the people that were on the show with him, which is pretty bad and embarrassing, but I mean, it's right there on Facebook. Anybody could see it. Yeah. He had to have somebody else telling him the names. So. Yeah. Yeah, it just tells you right there a little bit.
It bugs me when I'm researching because a lot of these YouTubers and anybody who's into making content about these subjects, they'll go to find the information and they'll stop at Tony. They won't go look further. They won't get multiple sources. They'll just take everything Tony says on his YouTube video and then make their own content with it. And it bugs me because everything's in the book. And that would be my first source if I were covering something,
well,
because it's the oldest.
Of his connection, you know, he's made a pretty good name for himself in the paranormal field.
Yeah.
It's, you know.
Yeah, he doesn't really have to worry about it.
Yeah, he's the guy running the show right now. Mm-hmm. He's making the money.
Yep. Okay. What is your favorite haunted case or experience while working for NESPR?
I really enjoyed going to the Conjuring House just because I love the location. I love the history of it. I know it's a very well-known case, and it's just a beautiful location. Like, I love the history. I love the land. Like I said, I've had some pretty interesting experiences there. I hate to sound like a poser by saying that, but yeah, I mean, the Conjuring House, it's a beautiful home.
Yeah, for sure. I want to go there so bad. I've been trying to gather friends so we can go up there and spend a night.
It's, it's a pretty cool location. As far as, like, other cases, I mean, residential cases, they wear you down because you're basically someone's safety net, and you have to know when to, like, cut that net in half.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, I tried my best to help you. You're not listening to me. So residentials, they kind of burn me out, you know?
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, it's a lot of personality to be working with.
Say it again, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. It's a lot of personalities to be interacting with.
Yeah. You can only do so much for someone.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, let me see. Okay, so since we've covered all that, I would really like to hear your opinion. My next episode, my next main episode will be covering my next episode will be covering the Arnie Cheyenne Johnson case and how and all of that. Do you have opinions on that you want to share before my episode comes out?
I met Arnie numerous times when I was on NESPR. I mean, Thanksgiving dinner and all the get-togethers at Ed and Lorraine's house. Again, I wasn't there, you know? Yeah. I was not there. Do I think there was something going on? It's very possible. Like the first part of that case.
With David Glatzel?
Yes, David being possessed, you know. It's hard because I wasn't there, so it's hard to, like, give an opinion. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
You could read everything, and it looks all fancy in a book, but I'll tell you, the movie, The Conjuring 3, I was not happy with that at all.
Yeah? Why is that?
Because I was so close. I mean, at that point, I mean, I was seeing Arnie a lot. Every time we'd have, like, a barbecue out in Lorraine's, he was there, and it's like, that movie is complete bullshit.
I felt that watching it even before I investigated it,
I mean,
or like researched it.
It's just all most of it's fabricated. And we watched the movie together. Myself, members of NESPR, Tony Spera, his wife, and they said it too. They're like, this is our least favorite one. We don't like it at all.
Yeah, they really got out of hand with it. It seems.
Yeah. I don't know. Just, you know, I got to know Arnie a little bit, and I'm not. Again, I have to choose my words wisely because I don't need anybody reaching out to me like, you know,
for sure.
You said this, but I mean, I don't know. I definitely question him killing someone because he was possessed.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I'll just leave it at that. I mean.
That is a fair opinion, because that is the split down the middle opinion. He either was or he wasn't. So to question it that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I just think he might have had a little bit too many adult beverages and got upset because somebody was flirting with his girlfriend.
I can see that.
God forgive me, but that's kind of that's my opinion.
That's a valid opinion. From what I've read and researched, and like I have a friend who is in the law side of this, and she's helping me research some of the the court parts, and some of the lawsuits after the fact. And it's a valid opinion.
I mean, you can look at it like this too. I mean, people will be like, "Oh, well, they tested his alcohol content." It's like, yeah, the next day.
Oh, did
That's
they the
why.
next day? Wow.
Yeah, they, as far as I know, they tested him the day after, and at that point, that's why it only.
That
I remember
happens
him
so much
telling,
in cases
because
too.
he told me to my face. He's like, "Oh yeah, they tested my alcohol level, and it was only one beer." It's like, but you drank more than that. And they tested you the next day, so it's like right there. It's like I don't know.
Yeah. There's a lot of holes in that whole case where people aren't being fully upfront with their information.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that there wasn't like phenomena going on with David, but the whole thing with Arnie, it's like I question that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Alrighty, I am out of questions. Is there anything that I may have not touched on that you would really like to share with the listeners?
I mean, I'm not trying to sell anything.
No, definitely not.
Not really. I love your podcast. I must say,
thank you.
I never reach out to anyone and say I want to do your podcast. But
I'm
you're
so
the
glad
first
you
person
did.
ever that I actually reached out to and said, "Yeah, I want to do your podcast because it's great."
Yeah, I'm really glad you came on the show because it's really nice to have, like, most of the time they're just listening to me talk and hopefully trusting in my research and that I did a good job. But it's really nice to have someone come on and like talk with me about it and also like back up some of the research that I've shared.
Yes.
So I'm really glad you came on.
You're questioning a lot of things because a lot of people they're like, no, this is real because Ed Moore said so. It's like,
yep.
There was no internet back then, so
yes,
could
exactly.
Him.
Yes, and in all of my research, I'm either finding that people 100% believe them without question, or people don't believe them at all.
And again, I just want to put it out there, like, I'm not shit-talking Ed and Lorraine at all, because they're the main reason why I became an investigator.
Yeah, they're the main reason I'm doing this podcast.
I got nothing but respect for Ed and Lorraine.
Absolutely.
But, back then, did they possibly embellish a little bit on certain things to big themselves up a bit? Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, look at it's going on nowadays with all these investigators out there that are just wanting to get likes, views, and followers. So if you think about it, not much has changed.
Yeah, that's very true.
So.
All right, I have.
A good job at making a name for themselves.
Yeah, I think that Ed had a big idea, and I think that he might have been a tiny bit before his time, but he really made something with it.
It's unfortunate that all this fame came after they passed.
Yes. Judy was asked. I saw an interview with Judy, their daughter, and she was asked what she thought her father would think of the movies, and she said she thinks he'd love them, and I can see why. It's his life's work on the big screen.
I mean, years ago, Ed had said that if they ever make a movie about any of our cases, it should be that damn bewitched farmhouse in Rhode Island, the Perrin case, and that started an empire.
It did.
The most successful horror franchise ever. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, it really is, and it's a strong story that's surviving time.
I am very much looking forward to The Conjuring 4. As far as I know, they're filming it. I do not know what case it is, though. I'm hoping they're going in chronological order, because at this point we're going to be in like the mid-'80s, so it may be the Smurl case, maybe the Snedeker case. I don't know.
I was wondering that too.
It would be the William Ramsey case, the werewolf case. I think that would be a great movie.
Yes, I want to cover that one as well, because that happened in Tennessee, I believe. Or was that the one overseas? No, Bigfoot was in Tennessee. Bigfoot was in Tennessee.
Yes, so you've done your research. Yeah, they did. And there was a Bigfoot case where Lorraine was telepathically communicating with a Bigfoot. That's in their book. I think it's Ghost Hunters or Ghost Tracks.
Yeah, Ghost Tracks, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have I reread. Yeah, they are. And I reread them over and over again because my memory has a hard time grasping everything at once. So I'll listen to the audible versions over and over. And every time I'm like, oh, wow, what was that?
Yeah. Sometimes I remember I used to listen to the audiobooks on cases. I've read all their books. Have you read The Devil in Connecticut? Have
Yes.
you read that one?
Yes. I've read that one twice
one,
now.
That one is like, whoa, man.
Yeah.
I remember reading that, just like...
There's a lot in that that's really substantial.
Yeah, it's like, that one freaked me out when I read it.
Yeah, the first time I listened to it, I partially, like, kind of half-assed pay attention just so I can get it, like, the story in my mind, and I can start grasping things the second time. And the second time I listened to it, I started really being like I've had nightmares during research before. I'll be really in a case, and then for a couple nights I'll dream about it and have silly nightmares.
I mean, that happens. I mean, I know we're close to the end here, but you're just making me remember something.
Oh, you're fine.
It was the first time I went to investigate the Conjuring house. I had like just joined NESPR, and the night before I had a nightmare, and in this nightmare I was standing it's like in an open field, and there was like an old, like, creepy looking tree, and under the tree there was like an old hag.
Oh my.
And she pointed at me, and then the next thing, everything like sped up, and I was just like sucked into her like a vortex.
Wow. Like, did she come at you really fast, or you at her?
Like, no, it was like she like summoned me, and I just like flew towards her, and I woke up. And when I woke up, I realized I was sitting up, and my left hand was extended out, and I'm like, shit, I'm getting pulled out of bed.
Oh wow.
And I heard a growl come from the corner of my room, and so I got up and said prayers, blessed myself and my wife and the bedroom. And I was just like super jazzed up about finally going to investigate that home. But that happened to me the night before I went to the Conjuring house. So this was like, and it was like around the devil's hour too.
Yeah.
So I woke up, and I remember clearly. I got out of bed and I ate some lasagna, and I laid back down for a couple of hours. And then I packed my equipment and I headed to the Conjuring house.
That's incredible. Like, that makes me feel like whatever is there knew you were coming and was inviting you.
Yeah. I've had other interesting experiences like that, like the Amityville house. I've never been in there, but I drove by a couple of times, and I sat out front and done spirit box sessions from a car. And I remember, I don't know if it was the first or second time, but after I left, I felt perfectly fine when I was the whole drive up and going there, and we left, and as soon as like we were halfway down the street, and I just got like super nauseous, and I got so sick. I threw up for like, I don't know, a decent amount of time, and I was like, something just like latched onto me.
Yeah.
And that's the feeling I got when I was there.
What do you think is causing the spiritual activity in that house? Do you think it's from the murders, or do you think it was something before the murders?
I think that is like a perfect storm, that one, because you had you had the DeFeos, and they were like a toxic family. Mm-hmm. And you had Ronnie DeFeo Jr., who was just like dabbling with drugs and alcohol, and that opens up doors. Mm-hmm. And then there was the murders, which, now, was he just wasted? Was he under the influence by something demonic? Because there's so many different avenues you can go down. For a while, I thought, well, it's something demonic channeled through him, and it blocked out the sound of the shotguns because nobody heard it.
Yeah, I definitely think that was paranormal.
So I'm like, is it paranormal? And then, recently I'm thinking like, maybe it was mob related.
Yeah, I've wondered that too.
Maybe there was mobsters in the house walking him through, and
do you think Dawn had anything to do with it?
Paranormal and mob related.
Yeah. Do you think Dawn had any part in it, because there was the rumors about a second gun, and then the whole forensics of her having gunpowder residue on the front of her, but she was found face down?
Yeah, possibly. It could have been Ronnie and Dawn, were walking around killing everyone because they were held at gunpoint by mobsters, and then she was killed. Mm-hmm. But we'll never know.
Yeah, that's the hardest part about it.
We'll never know.
I love speculating on it.
The whole thing too with the Indian burial ground.
Yes, and some historians have said that that's not true, and then there are some that do say, yes, that's true, it was just moved.
Yes, well, Hans Holzer investigated there as well, and he
yes,
believes
I need to cover him.
An Indian chief that is upset because his skull was unearthed, and there's so much that is involved with that case. And then, the Ghost Boy photo. Well, is it real? Did the Warrens fake it? It looks like a guy that was on the team. And then there's people that are like, well, it could very well be a demonic entity that's making itself look like one of their people to cause confusion and accusation. We'll never know. We'll never know.
Yep. The speculation is very fun, though.
Yes. You go down that rabbit hole and you get in pretty deep, and it's hard to come back.
It is. Yes, it is. It's very hard for me sometimes to complete these episodes because I get in so deep and there's so much information. I get so twisted and I can't make sense of it for the moment, and I have to walk away. And so my episodes, I intended for them to be monthly, but that's just not happening.
Yeah.
But I'm working on 6 now. I am ready to write. I've got all my research compiled, and hopefully I'll be recording within the next couple weeks on that one.
Very cool. What's the next one? What's the next
The next one is Arnie's case, Arnie Cheyenne Johnson for
That's right.
the Devils. Cool. The Devil Made Me Do It. And then you mentioned you were thinking that the next movie might be the Smurls. I'm going to cover them after, and so chronologically that would be it. So I'm kind of hoping it'll be them too.
So, do you remember the made-for-TV movie based on the Smurls?
I remember watching, I know I've seen it, but I don't remember the contents.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. It scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
I'm going to have to watch it again.
It's funny because before the Conjuring movies, there was that, and there was the Demon Murder Case made-for-TV show with Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon played Arnie Johnson.
Seriously?
And Andy Griffith played Ed Warren.
I'm going to have to find that because I did not know that existed.
I am going to send you some links.
That would be great.
But they do not refer to them as Ed and Lorraine in the movie.
Interesting. I guess that's probably a rights thing.
It's clearly that.
That's really interesting. Also, you said maybe it might be the Snedeker case. I'm wondering about that as well because they've already made a movie for the Snedeker case, and they didn't include the Warrens at all.
Yeah, those movies are garbage.
Yeah, I went up. Okay, so when that movie came out, I loved it until I researched it, and that seems to be a trend for me. As soon as I see the film, I love it as a film. I love it as an independent fictional story that's trying to scare me. But when
it's a horror movie.
Yeah, and when you try and throw in that, this is based on facts and this and that and the other, and I'm like, actually, I don't think so.
Read the book.
Exactly, yes, read the book, watch the interviews, do your own interviews. I talked to Carmen, and she didn't want to talk to me.
There's some really great interviews with John Zaffis regarding that case.
Yeah?
Look it up on YouTube. Yeah, There's some good stuff.
I definitely will.
Cool.
All right, I'm out of questions. We can wrap it up if you're good.
I'm good. This was fun.
Yes, definitely. And also, I like to do, once I put the interviews out, I did it with Andrea, but I haven't put it out there yet, but I'm going to ask for follow-up questions for a follow-up interview. So if you'd be interested in a second interview, we can get some listener questions in and touch on anything that they might bring up.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
Cool beans. Thank you so much for being on the show. It was so much fun.
You're welcome.
Alrighty, I will talk to you later then.
Thank you.
You're
have a
welcome.
good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much to Eric for coming on the show and sharing with us all. If you have any questions you'd like to ask Eric in the follow-up interview, send them to me at truthordemonspodcast@gmail.com or send them to me on the social medias, the Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. Until next time.